5 minutes.
At 4 o'clock, I'll give you the 5-minute warning.
Okay. All right. You need a. You're fine. All right. So, to kind of start this out, I wanted to mention the one thing that's been going on this year that everybody was consumed with. We had the election year, and on the election year, everything kind of gets crazy, and everybody's deciding, they're trying to decide one thing, and they're trying to decide on leadership and where we want to go with this. So with that, I want to present to you a question of, I want you to think of somebody. It could be a famous person, it could be somebody you know, family member, a pastor. I want you to think of somebody that you would think, this is a good leader. So think of that person that you think could be Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's our governor, could have been Obama, could have been anybody, could be your father, could be grandfather, anybody. And think
women
of that person.
Actually lead as well. I'm just saying. Yeah. Women actually lead.
Women, grandmothers.
Yeah, there we go.
Apologize.
That's all right.
Anybody that you can think of, and I want you to think about that person, and I want you to think to yourself, what characteristics do they have? What is it about them that makes them a good leader? And just if you can, we'll just list some of those things of what makes a good leader.
Integrity.
A good communicator.
So integrity. Excuse my spelling. Integrity, and what was the other?
Good communicator.
Good communicator. Good communicator.
Good at dealing with conflict.
Someone personable.
Personable. Anything else that just jumps out? Somebody that's approachable.
A learner.
A learner. That just said learner, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Now
Steadfast.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we can. Okay, and then thinking of these traits, we think this could be somebody that leads our church, somebody that leads our family, somebody that leads our nation. And qualities are very important when it comes to this kind, when we choose somebody to lead us. So in thinking about a good leader, I want you to think about it kind of maybe a little bit different way. Is what now? What would you characterize a leader like Moses? So these are leaders. These are what we would want in a leader for our country, for our families, for maybe the head of our department and our job. But as far as biblical leadership, what do we see in Moses throughout the biblical text of his leadership skills that he's had?
Just write down the opposites of what you have.
Oh no, I think the opposite. You said.
Yeah, Moses was an interesting man.
I'd say he was brave.
Yeah.
Do you want a scribe? Do you want somebody else to write?
That would be good.
Yeah.
That would be great. Appreciate that. So the question is, what would characterize a leader like Moses?
He would have to have some kind of charisma or depth. Otherwise, people would follow him. They would be like, no, we're comfortable, we'll stay where we are.
Yeah.
He had to have had some kind of charisma.
You said depth.
Depth
Charisma.
of character. He had to have something. Yeah.
He knew his weaknesses.
A couple that I got as well is these are the ability he was able to recognize God's hand in his life. And not only was he able to recognize it, but he was able to listen when God called. He was very persistent in the face of adversity. He faced a lot of things. Think about Moses and everything that went on during his time. There was a lot of adversity with Moses, and he was able to stay persistent in listening to God while he was doing it. Anything else that jumps out at you about Moses, about characterizes him as a good leader?
I think he had a strong character overall.
Strong character overall, yeah. How about humble? Any humble?
Yeah.
Moses?
For him to leave his position of influence and power, to go out into the desert and now lead the people that were once slaves. I think it's really humble.
He was sent out to the desert. He didn't choose to take that walk.
You
He
can
was
say that.
a team player. I mean, yeah, he was the leader, but he worked with his brother, worked with his sister. It was a team.
So, yeah.
He's a team player.
And he accepted. He could have been bitter. Like, I was a prince. Why do I now down here to slave these Jews? I'm a prince. But he accepted that they were his people. He accepted the leadership position without bitterness. It was like, I don't want to be a Jew when I was an Egyptian prince.
Yeah.
He never took that attitude.
It's true. He was the hierarchy. He was at the top.
Yeah. He would have been next level, maybe. So he didn't have any bitterness about accepting who his real identity was.
Well, that says a lot about his character. Being willing to go from the top to the bottom. To suffering with the people instead of just bossing them around, telling them what to do. And one more that I have here is delegation. He's a very good delegator. He wasn't always able to do everything that he wanted to get done, but he was able to delegate it so that others could take on the roles for him. These are. This is what we would think. This is what I would think, and I just kind of wanted to list these to kind of show us the difference of what maybe we may think in our world today, whether it's running a company, whether it's running the nation. We look at all the qualities and characteristics of people, but even more importantly than having integrity and personable and approachable and being all these things when you have a job interview, you sign up and you want to be the CEO or you want to be something, they're looking at all these different things. But see, God, He went past that and He looked, is he willing to, like you said, go from the top? Is He willing to sacrifice? Is He willing to be with the people and walk with the people in their struggles? When God chooses Moses and to lead his people from, being slaves into the promised land, and this journey that Moses went on with God. He's looking at all these different things that maybe we wouldn't even think of when I'm choosing a leader. So a part of Moses' leadership, his humble character, his recognizing God's hand in his life. When you go to a job, they're not going to ask him, well, do you recognize God's hand in your life? Are you willing to follow it? Unless it's church, unless it's something, more in the Christian nature, I don't see him saying that. But these are important characteristics that I would even say that God looks for in us as people, as leadership roles that we have in our own lives, in our communities. And let's jumping into the text.
Are you good?
Yes, thank you. Jumping into the text here, I want to separate into two different groups, so we can do either half the class and half the class, or you can flip-flop, however you want to do. And we're going to look at some verses in Numbers.
Oh, do you have?
No, 1600.
Oh, okay.
And just what I want us to do is look at these scriptures just together, just collaborate and look at these scriptures and talk with your group about the three questions that I have on here. And that is, what is the theme of these verses? What's the central theme that are kind of tying these together? In here, look for how the people react to Moses' leadership. It was quite different than the leadership we described on this side. So how did they react to this type of leadership? And how did Moses react to the rivalry that was against him? So let's just let's take some time and collaborate and talk and discuss this.
I'm good. Thank you.
Well, I sharpened it for you.
Oh, thank you. I'll take it.
Mine is coming up, and you may need a number 2 pencil.
Yo, group one, what do you think? What's up, group one? We can. Just need to join us in the group. Because we're number one.
So you answer one thing. Okay. What did you guys want to put for one?
I think being everybody's frustrated.
Okay, so.
Is that what you said? Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's a synonym
Oh, ungrateful. Ungratefulness, frustration. What that is.
I mean,
That's a good
they weren't very faithful.
We had like 17 words for that. What did you say?
Well, they're just so white.
I know.
I was like thinking when they write something in general, just to give them an outlet to one of my babies.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do.
There we go. Well, and a beautiful script as well.
Well, it's like seriously, like the men go to the boys' their house to cry because they don't have food.
Yeah. It's more than a 3-year-old.
So they, I feel they're kind of disenchanted. Like, I feel like they got a bad deal by a raw deal because they were in, Egypt and they're the, chosen ones, and they were brought out into the desert. So, so it's like, this is worse, so that disenchanted or let down.
Yeah.
So this is 3 weeks now, right? It's like a tickle, it's not like sore.
No.
Except for the part when you say,
If you have to leave there, with you, then you have to. And if you don't, it's about discernment, that's what I was thinking. What later, though?
what is the theme?
I mean,
Right.
right?
Unless it
Or
or it's
it
like
is
another
another
one, it's like
and if you say, oh gosh, you do this, he has to be there with you. But you can't go off and do stuff on your own. Because it seems like,
It's more about their situation.
as long as you call him about that, that he would be there.
But you don't cry to someone that you don't think will listen.
I mean, that was my thought.
He was
I'm trying to
in
read the
a
whole
place
thing,
of power in the
and I'm
sense
going
that
back and forth.
it's my needs because God, and God would take care of it, but treating that was fire. And since that's how
What do you
do
do?
in the first place.
Well, I just observed that there
So yeah, you're right. It's not
was a clear conflict
like,
in the first set of passages between Moses and God, and then the second one is between Moses and the Israelites. So there's conflict.
I mean,
The
yeah,
need for God to do something.
the way
And then
people
also
react
there's a
on
theme of there's petition to God.
trust
And
and
petition
Yeah,
to people.
trust.
I mean, Moses in the
They
first one
don't
is
trust
petitioning God,
Moses' leadership.
and then the second one,
I mean,
the people are
right?
not following,
Because
so he's trying to.
aren't we supposed to have the winners
To follow.
as leaders? Aren't they supposed to
Which
be,
answers
you
these two
know,
questions.
these
They didn't follow
specimens
Moses.
of power,
What's your
and, you
number
know,
three?
utterance,
How they
and
reacted,
security.
or how
So,
Moses
they're
reacted.
like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
What do we do?
We don't know what that's
Yeah,
not.
it's
Gonna do
Just
it.
let them go.
Yeah, he didn't try to stop
I
him.
think, I think, you know.
I guess you have to learn. You lose to learn,
I think there's this commonality of
I think that
Moses
you don't complain to someone unless you
taking
think that
their
they're gonna make
burden.
it
So the first one, it was more about
Well, at least
I'm
in
not
this
gonna
scenario.
Carol, these
people
areas
to
are
bring
right.
this for me, bring this for me, Lord.
Yeah.
And then the next one, they're like, he was like, you know, him nor the Lord less. Like he refused to take. It was like almost like continuous. Like he refused
But
to
I
take
think
their burden. Like
I
I'm
think
not
it's
going to
good
go
that
with
they're
you.
doing their stuff.
You are
They're
not
doing-
following your commands. I'm not going to
listen.
support you.
I mean,
I'm not going to help you.
we do have leaders that are
You let them
not
go,
being so kind
you
to
know, let
people
them
right
go, let them do it.
Are you talking about 14?
Yeah, the second one.
The first one, well, 41, but you were talking about 14, the British song.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that he's flawed.
Was it Moses
I like that
the
people
one
think
who
he's
was
flawed.
responsible
I don't like that we put our leaders on pedestals and they
No.
can't do anything wrong.
No,
and
because
they
it
do something
says,
wrong and
it
they're
says
totally
here that
wrong.
they'll have to share the burden with
I
them.
mean, we're just
Exactly.
women. Let's
That's
just
because the Lord said,
take the pressure off here.
find 70 men.
Mhm.
So how did
Because
Moses
Moses
react
finally
in
agreed that he
this,
could not, but I thought it was
to the rivalry against him?
And spoke with him.
Are you talking the first one or the second one?
Number three.
No, the first.
Right.
He couldn't
I,
do
it
those
doesn't specify, so I'm missing
Oh
those.
So-
my God.
things. The Lord said, find 70.
Yeah.
And then he said he would come down and he would anoint to bless them, and then that they would be able to take some of this decision. You know, kind of the chain of command as far as delegating.
Right. The delegation,
He's
yeah.
like a little boss
Okay.
man.
So yeah, so I guess in both senses,
Right?
he's in some way letting
Addressing the commandment of the Lord when it will not succeed,
The
do
other
not go
thing
up,
that tells me is
struck
that
down.
Moses has a relationship with God.
Mhm.
He
And then
communicates
look at
with
it,
what he
yeah.
says.
I mean,
When Moses passes it on,
he's just
he
telling
will
them
not
to
have
obey.
that
Yeah,
relationship.
I mean, I think that's a
This
good
is-
leader. Both of them are,
Maybe
like, this is a
Yeah.
3-year-old kid and this is a
Very
3-year-old kid. Like, that's why.
Be able to make decisions, so.
You're gonna do what, you're gonna do what I tell you not to do, when this is what's gonna
And
happen.
Moses
You know?
obviously didn't go.
No, he didn't,
all
he
just
let
like
him go. He didn't try to stop him.
No, if you tell someone don't go, it's going to cost you your life, and they go, what are you going to tell them? You just told them everything. Just what can you say to them? So Moses really.
So in group one, moving this along a little bit. In group one, what is it that you discovered for the theme? What would you say the theme of this is of the text? I know there's a lot of text.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reading. Is it?
Being frustrated, we talked about different words for frustration,
Mhm.
yeah.
I'm grateful.
It's frustration. There was a lot of gratefulness going on. Yes. A lot of gratefulness.
Yeah, okay.
So in here, kind of what we see is, that's going on is the leading of the people of God. There's a lot of frustration, a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of, what was the word you used?
Ungratefulness.
Ungratefulness going on in that. So,
Jump on it, Gia. You just said 1, 2, 3, I think so.
Look how pretty your cursive is.
You know, and that's like reaching across.
what about the second one? The second question. How do they react as Moses' leader?
They ditched him.
They cried like little babies.
Right.
They
Okay.
didn't trust him.
Disobey.
Do you guys have the same scriptures? Or no? I don't think so.
Pretty close. They're pretty
Well,
close.
the same second one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they tried. They didn't trust him. They disobeyed.
Disrespected him, I guess.
Disrespected. Would you say it was fair to say that they complained?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they kind of did. So far in the first group, I mean, what are you guys seeing as far as in 1 and 2 on the questions? Where were you guys at on your verses?
Well, I thought it was very insightful something Liz brought up, that both of these passages, Moses is letting go of a burden. In the first section, he's letting go of the burden of the leadership that he can't take on by himself, and in the second one, he's letting go of the burden of the people to him.
Okay, so that's more of how he reacted then. So he's kind of letting go then. He's kind of saying.
Yeah, that's question number 3.
Okay, yeah. So basically, he depended on God. He kind of said, "Okay, God, well, it's your people, you do it." Is that kind of what you guys kind of got at?
Well,
Martin was saying that earlier before this, that Aaron had come to him and said, you need to do something. This is not working. And there's, I think, a lot of us can probably relate to that. It's hard to let go of the control because we think we're the only ones who can do it, and or at least do it right. So that first section.
Sometimes we feel like we think we're the only one that can do it. Maybe it's not so much in my thoughts, the control of I'm going to control this, so much as we believe that God sent us to go do something, and on our journey we believe that we're the only one. And it's like what Elijah said, I'm the only one, and the Lord said, I got 7, so it's 7,000.
Yeah.
Well, we're not alone. So, and I don't see myself, I don't see Moses saying, okay, well, I'm willing to give this up. I mean, he was whining and complaining to God and said, if it has to keep going, well, just kill me. I mean, he didn't want this. He can't do it.
Yeah.
He didn't stop to realize that God had another answer, and that was, bring me 70 men.
Yeah.
And we will take care of this.
Yeah. So in that, what you're talking about, in that, when he's saying, okay, well, then kill me if this is what it is.
Yeah.
Forgive me this and just kill me.
Yeah. Can't do it.
Right. So he's saying, God, well, this is your baby. You go ahead and you take care of this. So, and then as we keep reading, then you're saying that, well, God says, okay, well, then let's add 70 men.
Well, yeah, so if you're going to deal this way with me, well, then just please kill me. If you're going to do this, I don't think Moses seen the other side.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a plea. I think it was more of a, if this is what you're going to do and this is your plan, you're going to have to count me out. I'm out. I don't want to do it. Not only that, I don't want to live through this. I can't do this. And the Lord said, I can help you with that. Bring me 70 men.
So then he's depending on God to help him in that.
Complete dependence.
Complete dependence.
But even though he was doing that, but of course the Lord made an opportunity for him.
Okay.
That's the way I see it. I understand it.
Group 1, how were you guys on number 3? Question number 3. On how Moses reacted to the rivalry against him.
We didn't have a lot of time, but you have stuff written too.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, it says he was displeased in verse 4, but he still took care of them faithfully, like in verse 2 where he prays to take care of the fire. And he continues to admonish them in obedience, like in the second section at the beginning, he's encouraging them to obey the Lord for their own safety. And then when they don't listen to him, he doesn't participate in their disobedience. He stays in the camp.
Okay. So he chooses to follow what we were talking about here when we brought up his kind of his characteristics. He's seen God's hand in it, and kind of no matter what the adversary is saying, no matter what he was persistent in following that. Even at, well, I told you guys not to do this, and I'm saying here, I'm not gonna go with you and do that because this is not what God said. Is that what you're saying? So he kind of, same thing, he kind of depended on God. And 2, we see that, or in number 1, we see that he is leading the people, and there's this frustration and there's this ungratefulness in doing that. I heard mention of a couple of 3-year-olds that kind of fit the bill here, and in number 2, he was a lot of crying, there was no trust, and they just complained. In number 3, he's depending on God, saying that I can't do this and kill me if this is what you want me to do. So why don't you take this? I'm going to depend on you and allow you to handle it. This is kind of what I've got as well. And here I want to just read, and again, I know there's a lot we'll read these together. These are all the same. And this is Numbers 12, 1 through 16. And as we're reading this, I just want you to see the questions at the bottom. It says, as a leader, how was Moses dependent on God? Or how was his dependence on God evident in the Scripture? So, in here, on this part here, how did the others react to Moses' dependence on God? And according to what we just discovered in the previous text, along with, we'll get to the Hebrew meaning. But let's just go ahead and read these. If I can have some volunteers, we'll read. We can read sections at a time.
So what do you want us to read?
We'll start with 1. We'll just do the sections, the 3 different sections of it.
Okay. Then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman whom he had married, for he had married a Cushite woman. And they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us as well? And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very humble, more than any man who was on the face of the earth. Suddenly the Lord said to Moses and Aaron and Miriam, you 3 come out of the tent of meeting. So the 3 of them came out. Then the Lord came down in a pillar of cloud and stood in the doorway of the tent. And he called Aaron and Miriam. And when they both had come forward, he said,
Hear now my words. If there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, shall make myself known to him in a vision. I shall speak with him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my household. With him I speak mouth to mouth, even openly, and not in dark sayings. And he beholds the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant, against Moses?
So the anger of the Lord burned against them, and he departed. But when the cloud had withdrawn from over the tent, behold, Miriam was leprous, as white as snow. As Aaron turned toward Miriam, behold, she was leprous. Then Aaron said to Moses, O my Lord, I beg you, do not account this sin to us, in which we have acted foolishly and in which we have sinned. Oh, do not let her be like one dead, whose flesh is happy in a way when he comes from his mother's womb. Moses cried out to the Lord, saying, O God, heal her, I pray. But the Lord said to Moses, if her father had but spit in her face, would she not bear her shame for 7 days? Let her be shut up for 7 days outside the camp, and afterwards she may be received again. So Miriam was shut up outside the camp for 7 days, and people did not move on until Miriam was received again.
So in these verses, we go back to verses 1 and 2, where it starts out with Miriam and Aaron, and they're speaking against him. So again we see the rivalry. We see the rivalry kind of going against Moses and his leadership. What else did we see in here? Working our way down in verse 3. What do we see? What's in verse 3? What did we see in verse 3?
Moses is very humble, more than
He's very
anyone
humble.
on the earth.
Okay. So, and see, the thing with Moses is, in Numbers, he's the one that actually wrote the book of Numbers. So for me, I'm going to write this book and say, Matthew Moorhead, he's the greatest teacher that there ever was. And that kind of makes me put myself on a pedestal, you know what I mean? So for Moses saying, well, I'm the most humble man that there ever was in the face of the earth. You know, doesn't that kind of discredit the being humble part? You know? And then, you know, I mean, when you think of humble, what do you think? What comes to mind when you think of the word humble? When you think of somebody that's humble, I mean, what characteristics do they have? What makes a humble person?
They keep their mouth shut.
They
They
don't
don't tell the whole
jump.
world that they're.
They're not credit whores.
Right. They don't say, well, I'm the most humble person on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And it's my book and I'll write it.
Right. They don't say stuff like that.
They just think it.
They just
Yeah.
think it's right. They just know it to be true. So, you know, a humble person. Okay. Humble person, you know, a couple of the things that I got was they're meek, they're respectful, they're submissive, they're unassertive, unpresuming, they're modest. You know, they like you said, they don't go around saying, well, I'm the most humble person on the face of the earth. But, you know, and that's kind of how we see humble. But now, going back in the other paper that I've given you here, we'll read this together. The Hebrew word for humble is translated anah. And it is used in the verse as a noun. It's also the word occurs 21 times in 19 verses. It's used in other verses as afflicted or as a reference to the poor. And according to the theological word book of the Old Testament, it refers to those who serve God and are more concerned about moral and spiritual conditions of their life rather than the happiness and abundance that the world offers. So Moses describes himself as humble, not to boast about himself, not to boast how humble he is, but to report his position, which was an absolute dependence on God. So Moses is following these people. He's leading these people, and he's leading these people that are very frustrating. They're very ungrateful. They're complainers. They're like children. And basically he's leading these people where he's saying, God, I can't do this. Why, you might as well kill me. So I'm depending on you. And so according to the Hebrew word of humble, anah is to be the most humble man on the face of the earth, is to be the most dependable man on the face of the earth. So this is kind of where we see in Moses why he says I'm the most humble man. Because he's saying, what would you say that he's saying when he says this? When he says, I'm the most humble man on the face of the earth. What does that tell you in light of the Hebrew word humble? And what is he saying about himself?
Most dependent man on God.
Most dependent man on God.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do this.
Yeah. I would through our, Western vision and how someone would say this now, and we all jumped, and I jumped to it too, but that's kind of pretentious to say that, but in this view, in this, the way the Hebrew defines humble, it's in his humility, he's saying I'm no better than anybody else. I am the least, and I need God because I am one of the least, Yeah. So it's not I don't see it as a pretentious statement, I guess.
So as we've explored this word humble that Moses describes himself as, I want to take the time and pass another paper out. And I want you to think about how does your dependence on God impact your lives? How does it impact the lives of those around you? How does it impact your communities? And I just want you to write just for yourself, write a statement about being humble and what it looks like in your life, and what effect does it have? Because whether we like it or not, each and every one of us are leaders. And some of us are leaders in churches, some of us are leaders at home, some of us are leaders in multiple different ways, and we impact our families, we impact our communities, We impact people at the school. Some of us are teachers here that have a doctorate in the Bible. I don't know exactly what it is, but how does that impact you? And I just encourage you to take this and just put it in a place where you can look at it here and there and say, you know what, it is important how I handle myself. It is important how I lead people. It is important that I am dependent on God and that I don't just do it my way because it's affecting more than me. It's affecting those around me. And one thing I want to leave you with is at the bottom. It says, Moses wasn't concerned about the worldly possessions or status. He was focused and dependent on God. And when you are focused and become dependent on God, you don't have to worry about those that may rival against you. We don't have to worry about our positions being taken. We don't have to worry about any other aspect of our lives, but just focusing on God.
Thank you.
It is break time, and Matt will appreciate your responses.
Yes.
And negative.